With a growing population, industry base, and overall wealth, some of the movers and shakers of Nicolet Bay have begun to discuss the need for the county to take to the air. One of these residents, Laura Adams, the now owner of the Bluebird on Nicolet Drive, has been an aviation enthusiast since she was a child. In her younger years, she was in the Air National Guard in Fairchild, where she trained to be a pilot. Unlike Clearwater County, Nicolet Bay does not have either a commercial or a general aviation airport. She is determined to change this and lobbies the county to develop a general aviation airport, explaining the tourism benefits as well as the general sense of pride that an airport can bring to a community. She suggests land off de Gaulle Avenue for the airport, since it has some of the flattest land that is easily accessible for the development of the airport. The county commissioners love this plan and agreed to develop a small airport. Their feeling is that this will help not only with tourism, but also allow for crop dusters and cedars, which will bring economic development to the region. In today's episode, we'll build a custom general aviation airport using the Aviation Club asset. And we're also going to develop a bit of residential, which is probably something we should be focusing on a little bit in every episode from here on out. But first, it looks like Phillip with 2 L's has made his way to Golden. It's easy to assume that a guy like Phillip is always up to no good, but today he's just like you and me, looking for a last-minute gift for the holidays, and asking anyone who will listen what he should get. Wow, you look familiar. And that's where today's video sponsor, NordVPN, comes in. Give the gift of a fast and secure internet connection no matter where your loved one is. NordVPN has over 5,400 super fast servers worldwide that can help you create a private, secure, safe browsing experience, which is basically the perfect gift for anyone. But wait, there's more. NordVPN can also make the internet more fun, allowing you to access region-locked content by giving you the ability to change your internet location in seconds. Did you know that in the UK you can watch Rick and Morty, The Office, Friends, Young Sheldon, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia? I didn't either until I got NordVPN. If all of this sounds good to you, head to nordvpn.com/cityplanner for a great deal on NordVPN that includes a risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee. That's nordvpn.com/cityplanner. Now let's get back to the video. Hello, welcome back to City Planner Plays, where we are building Nicolet Bay, and I am really excited to build this general aviation airport with you. But before we do that, I feel like we need to go over a couple of things that we did in the stream. First of all, we built this bridge. Well, not this one. This is the old bridge, and it's been a complaint since the very beginning of the series. We modified the bridge to make it look like this, and I'm really excited about this because I could not have done this on my own. This is probably the best bridge I've ever built, and it looks this great because of all of the lovely feedback that I received during the stream. So a huge shout out to everyone who was there. If you still want to check it out, the link will be linked above. It was a lot of fun, and we just had a good time hanging out. Okay, and the other thing that we did during the stream was we converted some of the floodlights on these windmills to these warning red lights. So you could tell that these aren't quite perfect. One of these is kind of floating off to the side. That is kind of a problem with the windmill in specific, but we can do something that's going to make this at least a little bit better. So I'm going to click through here, click on our warning light, and click the plus button, add a prop. So what this is doing is adding another warning light. Now I've already done a little bit of math here, so I know that it's 66 that it needs to be up, and I can't use the slider because it won't let me go any further to the right, but I can enter a number. And what you'll notice is it added this light right here. So now I can play with the offset to get this to be exactly where I want it to be. And I want to try to get it as close to the center as I can. We'll apply this, and now I'm going to take the warning lights that are actually the floodlights. So if I were to reset these and turn into the floodlights again, I'll take the probability all the way down. So now what you can see is that this light is actually just one light in the middle of here, and it looks a ton better. And you can see one of the issues is that this light actually doesn't rotate as the windmills do. So it will float every now and then, and for some of these it won't be perfectly centered, but I think it is a better solution than the one that we came up with. And this is all thanks to Banana Man, so a huge shout out to Banana Man. Thank you so much for that idea. So we're gonna come over here and focus in this particular location for our airport. Now if we look at our contours, it's not perfectly flat, and that's perfectly okay. The reason why we're choosing this location is we really only have maybe 4 locations in the entire county that are suitable on the main landmass. So we have right here, and this is reserved for a university, right here, which is reserved for farmland, and then up here. Now this is difficult to access right now whereas this land is fairly simple to access. We're gonna have to orient our airport in the right direction, but it's gonna be okay. Now, I know we're using the general aviation airport asset. We do not need to use a district, but I do like that this levels everything for you. So we're gonna place this. And there's a secondary reason as well. We are gonna unlock some airport assets so that we can place hangars and things of that nature in here to make it look a little bit more real. Okay, very good. And you might be thinking to yourself, why did I make this so big? It's the general aviation airport. You know, it's a limited size. It's actually not. So we can do some really fun things with this, and I'm going to show you how. First of all, let's fix our terrain a bit though, because it's a little bit messy right now. So what we're going to do is just come along the side and just smooth things out a bit. Make it look like a little bit of grading work actually occurred here. Now what I want to do is extend this highway. We don't want this to terminate into the airport. We might have a use for this road in the future. The other thing is this is an arterial. So, you know, while we could simply terminate this road into the airport, I would rather not. I would rather preserve this as an arterial for future use as an arterial. Now, to get this working, what we're going to need to do is actually go and look for our asset. And that's going to be in our unique buildings, and it's under our level 5 unique buildings, and it's the Aviation Club asset. So the Aviation Club offers local aviation hobbyists and small plane owners a place to do recreational flying within the city's limits. So it's a perfect asset for what we're looking to do. So we are going to temporarily place this right here, and I just want to be able to move it wherever I want for the time being. Let's go ahead and grab a 2U road. For the time being, we'll use one of these 2-lane roads and medians. I don't know that this is exactly what we're going to use, but we'll start with this. And what I want is just a place to come in and then park. Nothing all that extravagant. So we're going to place this here, and then we're going to make a parking lot for this. There we go. So what I've done is just basically create a small parking lot right here. We could extend this out, and we very well might, just to have it reach the sides of this to make it look a little bit more planned. And then we'll get this filled in with parking, some accessible parking at the front, and some general purpose parking outside of there. Okay, and now that we have parking, we're just going to add in some landscaping and decorations to make this feel just a little bit nicer. Okay, so pretty basic, but I feel pretty good about it. Now, I've graded a whole bunch of land here because I think we could do better than this. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to unlock this runway and then place a new one. And you might wonder, is that going to break the functionality of this? And you might think that it would, but it won't. So I'm excited to show you how to do this. This one's a lot of fun. So we're going to come through here, Unified UI, and we're going to go into the unlock segment mode, which is also Alt-1 if you have a keyboard, which I do not. Well, a keyboard with a numpad. Go through each segment and unlock it. You'll know it's unlocked when it's yellow. And now you can delete this. So now you need a new runway. So in Find It, look for runway, and you have to use this one that says Aviation Club Runway under Sunset Harbor. Click on that, and this can be as long as you want it to be. So we are going to make this very, very long. And then we will take this and spin it back. I'm actually regretting the location of this particular parking lot, so we're going to modify it. We're going to delete this and delete this. And then we'll go into move it. We're going to use our marquee selection tool and select everything right here. And now we can basically select anything within here to move it, and even spin it if we want to. And then we'll just tuck that nice and tight back here, centered very nicely. And now I'll grab this again, this driveway, and just send this back. Now we are going to want to make sure that collision's off so we don't inadvertently take things out. There we go. There we go. So now I want to add it. Well, first of all, let's get this thing connected up. We'll get our water pipes underneath the road right where they belong. And then for power, we've got a ways to go before we can jump. So I think that we are just going to add a transformer box over here, and it should power most of our airport. In fact, we'll even stick it inside of the airport. Good to go. Good to go. So now this should function, but I do want to just pay attention to it for a moment and make sure that we see an airplane take off from here. And actually, while we're doing that, this looks pretty bad. One of the reasons that this looks so bad is in the vanilla asset, they take this particular node. There we go. We got an airplane. We're going to hold down Alt and pull this node back that's at the top of the symbols up here, both sides, and that will make it look normal. Very good. Now, one thing you might notice is that now the lights look a little bit weird. There's an easy fix for that. Let's select all of the nodes, except for the end ones. And then we're going to come through here and line up objects, and that'll get all of the lights to be even. And we'll still keep our the ends in the beginning of our runway looking the way that they looked before. So looking very good. Again, you've got to pull this runway in the direction you want it to go. That's why I was very careful to drag it out this way. I want the planes taking off that way rather than taking off into the city. So we are going to clear behind here though for landing. And then I do want to soften this as well. So let's spread this back, right mouse click, left click, and we'll get a nice slope down. Now I'm going to just fill in some of the rest of this. Continue to, whoa, I was using the wrong tool. I meant to use this one. So we wanted to soften it, not do all the crazy stuff we just did. Not the end of the world. We could figure it out and fix it. It's fine. Okay, very good. Feeling better about that. Now, what if you wanted to have some hangars or something like that in here? What do you do to make that happen? Well, we'll go into our airports menu and see if we can find them. And what I noticed right off the bat is everything is locked away. So we're not going to go crazy with this, but I think that we'll place one of these in here, which should unlock a few things for us, particularly some of our decorations. Okay, it unlocked our hangar, which is all that I really cared about. Editor Phil here. This is one solution to bring hangars into your build. It's not the best solution though. Stick with me till after the city tour and I will show you a better solution. All right, let's jump back in. So this isn't actually a functional building, but I thought it might be kind of nice to include some of these down here. And I'm going to line these up to try to make them look as good as they can. Line them up. That looks terrible. We'll undo it. And maybe by eye, I'll fix some of these. There we go. And I'm going to slide these down. Try to make them a little bit nicer. There we go. And now we are going to fill in some of this with concrete. So we'll just go in here. We'll go into our pavement and turn our strength all the way up. Make this hard. I wanted to see how this is going to interact with that dirt outline there, and the answer is poorly. So we are going to adjust this, and we're going to use our concrete, ploppable concrete. So I'm going to go with a fairly large one. We'll go with an 8x6, and if I'm really careful, I should be able to place this right alongside. Very nice. And the other place where this is helpful is right here, where I do not necessarily want this to have any interaction there. Now, I should be able to just fill this in the center, and we're looking good. Looking very good. Now, let's add in a fence around here. Now, this is an interesting thing because I don't know that we actually need this at a general aviation airport. Now, if you know more about these sorts of airports, let me know. So I was looking at the Mackinac Airport actually, and one of the things that I noticed is that there's a service road that goes all the way around it, no fences anywhere, and there are homes off of the service road, Airport Road, which kind of blew my mind. It made me think maybe I'm getting a little bit too crazy about fencing. That said, they did have some fencing of some sort, and it looked just like the nature reserve fence. So I think that's what we're going to go with. We'll just add in some nature reserve fence, which to me, when I see this, I think of that as mostly being decorative. And it seemed like that was what their game plan was, have a decorative fence. So I'm going to fix the road a bit because it's a little bit wonky. So we're going into our range at line mode or control 6 if you have a numpad. and just straightening out the road a bit, giving some separation, which I think is really a good benefit right here, getting a nicer turn. And now we're going to go through and use our parallel mode, come all the way along here, tab to get this shifted over to the other side, and then plus to increase the distance. And now we have a beautiful parallel facility right here. Now we do need to do a couple of things. And then we'll come back and do it again right here. Okay, so that is much better. Gone through and just added some fences around here using that parallel mode tool. Now, I should have gone through and here I actually went all the way around, left a small gap, and it turned out significantly better. This part's kind of weird. I don't really get that, but might be able to take care of this with node controller. Actually, just removing that extra node did the trick. So looks very, very good. We're going to add one more. And the main thing that I would recommend is just make sure that when you're doing this, just work all the way around. There we go. So that's looking good. We've got to get some water pipes to our hangars. And we're looking good. So this isn't the most complicated build, but I do think it is a good one. And I really like what this has added to this particular area. Now, improvements, if I had any, it would probably be to get smaller hangars. I'm also going to decorate a bit more along here. All right, very, very good. I think what we're going to move on to is a bit of residential development. So this would provide a great deal of benefit to the area. We can click on it. We can see that there are tourists that are using it. There are visitors that are coming here, and it is a general aviation airport. And this would be used for the crop dusting as well. It would be used on the orchard if it weren't for all the windmills around here. That's something I looked up. And interestingly, the crop dusting wouldn't be allowed in the European Union. It's been banned since 2009, which I found to be very fascinating. Makes sense if you think about it. There are some concerns with this sort of operation, but it certainly does improve the productivity of a farm. Now, as I'm over here, I'm noticing one thing. I shifted a couple of things improperly, so we are going to shift them back. So again, that's holding down shift, clicking on the first one, clicking on the one you want to align it with, and then it'll just move it right over, looking very good. And I think down here, I did the same thing where I did not align these. So again, shift, click on this one, align this with there. Over here, same deal. It's a little thing, but it makes it look a ton better in my opinion. So now we're going to add some residential, and what we have is an area with a big fire. We've got an area over here where we have a bunch of land that could be developed and now has decent access, or could have decent access if we were to carve in right about here. So that's what we're going to do. We are going to provide access to this area, but we can't cul-de-sac this out. It's way too big. And if something like this happened, how does a fire truck get in from this side, for instance? I guess helicopters. So, and I think we could come through right here and break through. Now, I would imagine that if this were actually a thing, this would have already been reserved, and the owners of this property would know that this was potentially going to be right of way at some point in the future. They're not paying taxes on it. They're probably still upset that this is happening though. That said, we're going with it, and then we're going to find our flat place here. So this isn't because I think that this is how this would work in reality. It's because this is City Skylines, and it is significantly easier to build when it's a little bit flat. Now it gets pretty rough and tumble over there, so we're not going to worry about it all that much, but we will use our slope terrain tool, set our brush size to maybe 22, and our strength, we can keep that at 100. That's no problem. Right mouse click at the top where we want this to meet up, left at the bottom, bring it right up. Now, in reality, I think that if this were not constructed right up front, this road, if it were not stubbed in, sometimes you'll see those roadway stubs. If this weren't in there, it's never coming, because these folks would be fighting tooth and nail now. The last thing they want is to have this road built right next to their house. That said, we're going to take some liberties here, and I'm going to pause this momentarily because we are likely to ruin the zoning in this area. I don't want this to disappear. In fact, I will disable zoning on this segment. Look at that sad face. It's like they knew. And then we'll turn all of our snap tubes back on just to get this thing up the hill. There we go. We could figure the rest of this out in just a moment. What we are going to do, though, is add in just a couple of different spots, a couple of different heights. We'll layer some heights here. And I think we'll choose right about here and pull this in. Now, again, not reality. In reality, your buildings would conform really nicely to the terrain, and you would figure it out that way. That is not the way the game works. I think we all know that. So we are going to take a couple of liberties here. And here, we're going to try to find a place that has good visibility. Right mouse click at the top, left down here, and slope our way up. We need to taper off on the sides to improve our visibility. And then again, come up just a little bit. 5 units, and then we'll turn in. There's something weird happening here. This is because I inadvertently left Anarchy on. So if you see this, it's probably broken and you probably have to reconnect it. But I'm going to try to salvage it because I'm crazy and I was able to do it. So there we go. Feeling all right about that. Now, from here, we're going to run some roads back. This is going to be a little collector, a rural collector, if you will. And we are going to even keep this a dirt road. The fire's still going. Wow. It's very impressive. And again, we go 200 here for our bulb. And then we will right mouse click out of there, click on this, and now we get a bulb. Hit M for move it. We can tighten this up. There we go. Little cul-de-sac with a view of town if we provided it. I don't know that we're going to. We might actually densely landscape this because of the traffic noise. That would be a problem. Speaking of noise, I am curious. We should take a look and see how our sound is going to impact things. So the road is, the homes are going to need to be tight on the road if we want to avoid any impact from the wind turbines. But again, I'm not overly concerned about that. I think it's okay. If it were underneath, that would be a problem, but probably not as big of a deal over here. Now, with this, we're just trying to work with our terrain, do as best as we can. And this is why roads end up like this. It's not random. It's not that people just like crazy roads. I mean, I guess some people do, but not most people. Most of the time, people like roads that make sense. That said, you sometimes get this, and we're not going to be able to go out as far as a developer might like to over here. In fact, this is very long. I think you'd have to fight with the EMS and fire department about this, because the last thing you want is stuff like this to happen. So there we go. We got some more buildable lots up here. And then we're going to try to get as many lots as we can up here. It's going to be a bit of a trick because if we get too far down, no, I think it's going to be okay. We will have a number of cul-de-sacs coming up here, which isn't all that dissimilar to what you see in the area that this is actually based upon. There are a couple of areas where it's just lollipops coming off from here is what it looks like. Okay, now for all of these, we're going to add bulbs. I'm not sure what I did with this one. But something went a little haywire. So, I guess maybe the slope, if I set this back to 0. Yeah, there we go. That was interesting. I've never seen that before. So now that we have this is basically maximizing what we have over here. You can see that there's actually a lot of buildable space up here. It's an impressive amount of space. We are going to go through and, well, we could simply zone up here. I think we're going to plop most of these, but I want to restore these first. The height of realism. The one asset that I might like to find for this build that is a smaller disaster response unit. That, or I will use what we've used in Clearwater County, which is a disaster response helicopter spawn point. And that's something that we could place over at our general aviation airport now. So it is certainly something that would make the build feel a lot more reasonable and realistic. So let's go ahead and we're going to use our evergreen tags. And again, I have the question mark set up. We'll just come through here and hit our question mark every now and then. And I'm getting overly excited. I've actually got to get water pipes underneath the road right where they belong. Okay, we're all set up here. Now, I can see that we already have some overlapping with our trees. I'm gonna get rid of these. We can add the trees back in after the fact. And I'm already also noticing that I'm neglecting parks in a way that's not really fair. Now, I wouldn't expect there to be many parks in a place like this. My family is from a place not too dissimilar to this. That said, there were parks. It wasn't a spectacular park, a little Lions park with a baseball field, but that is absolutely magical when you were a kid with nothing else around you. So this is certainly something that we are going to work into this area. But let's get rid of our trees first. Okay, so we need some kind of park here, so it's not going to be anything extravagant. Let's just add in maybe a small climbing frame or something like that. We'll centrally locate this right here. Actually, this one doesn't have any playground equipment, so that is not what I was looking for. The small playground is likely better. Maybe we'll even go with both. I have no problem with that. We'll add a node so that folks could stop and cross in between the two. And because this is rural, I am going to add a parking lot close by. But because I don't want this to look crazy, we are going to take the brush. And I know it's kind of weird to have the parking stalls right there, but I think it's a little bit better than the alternative, which is having it be paved. And then let's add some paths through here to get people to this park. There we go. That's probably good enough. I would love to snake it behind here, but in a rural area, I just don't see that as being a reasonable solution. Folks would I mean, you don't live in a rural area if you're not seeking privacy. That's one of those things that kind of just comes with the territory. More space, more privacy, all of those things. And just while I had the ability, I grabbed a couple of trees to go around this parking lot. I'm not sure that I'm in love with the way this looks. I might give it up, but for the time being, I think we're gonna roll with it for the time being. Let's finish up adding our homes here. Okay, so we've got this for the most part all situated and straightened out, and I think it's looking pretty good. It is missing landscaping, and this is a rural area. We are going to go through and just kind of add it densely through. Okay, now I'm going to clean up some of the land around here. It's pretty messy, and I'm hoping that I can do something to make it a little bit better. You can see there's these pretty large ridges there that look pretty terrible. Interestingly, I don't actually have anything on the cul-de-sac bulb here, and that might be my saving grace. I'll just pull this around, angle these, and maybe even just move it. Use move it for these and drop them down just a bit. There we go. Looking so good. Looking so good. So the last thing I want to check out here is I did add a lot of landscaping. And sometimes when you add a lot of landscaping, you miss the forest for the tree. So we don't want to do that. And one of those ways that you might do that is right here, for instance. These folks should have a view of the water. But we've added so much landscaping that they can't see it. And there you go. That is an example of where you might want to do that. Now, for some of these, it's going to be fairly easy to figure it out. We'll just change the landscaping, move it in the back. And for houses like this one, it's not really facing towards any place where that would make sense. So you just don't always get a nice view. So now that we've done that, there's kind of some weird backyards. We're just going to add some separation with some landscaping. Actually, we'll use fences to provide that buffer. And we'll go with our old favorite, the forestry industry fence, and add in that separation. And I had to convert that all to the nature reserve fence so that we didn't block the views that we just worked so hard to preserve. But to me, this feels like they're lots now. It makes a bit more sense, and I personally appreciate that. You could also add a couple of signature trees in the lots now, rather than a whole bunch. Depends on the level of detail you want to get into. Personally, that's just never really been for me, so I'm probably going to avoid most of it, but we'll do just a bit. And that's good enough for me. I think we're looking pretty good now. So let's take inventory of what we've done and have a brief city tour. I just love looking at the city at night. Even when you're in a rural area, you still get these majestic lights and a real feeling of what your build is. And for this, the airport looks really, really good. Again, I really wish that these hangars were smaller. And oh my goodness, I had an idea that I wasn't sure if it would work, but it will. So what we can do is actually steal some of these buildings using our sub buildings within Find It. So this is going to be wonderful because we can choose between this one or this one. Let's choose between our dual hangar, and we'll get rid of these ones. We'll need to come back today, and then we'll just pull this over and Control H this down to the airport. So I'll need to spin this around, but oh my goodness, this is so much better. So now we can just Control C this and paste this into place a couple of times. Oh, look at that. Look at that. That is really nice. Now the scale of this is just so much better now. I feel really good about this. Now I do want to know, at night, are these lighting up? They are not. That is a little wonky. I'm curious. I've got power there. I don't know what the deal is. So I will just search for the airport light. And what I might be able to do is just overlap these, or I could remove them and just place them all myself. What I think I'm going to do is I'm just going to try to overlap them. There we go. Oh my goodness. I'm so excited about that. I think this does also highlight that we didn't add lighting through here, so I'm going to add some here as well. On this parking lot, I'm going to get rid of it. So I've gone through here, and I'm just going to eliminate those. And then we can just place it by ourselves. We don't need these showing up. We can do it on our own. Editor fill once more. There's a bit of flashing for about the next 30 seconds, so if you're sensitive to flashing, please skip ahead. There we go. Now some of these lights are floating, and I don't really know why, but we'll need to take care of those. Just using Move It, popping in there, and bringing them right down. Just a couple of them. And then we have some that are flashing. I apologize for the flashing. I don't know how to fix that, which I wish I did. If you know how to fix it, please let me know. Please let me know. But I think we're looking good here, and here's where we're going to leave it tonight. Take a look at this as well. Looks very dark, very rural, and very full of criminals. We'll need to deal with that in the next one. But again, we're going to leave it here. I hope that you've enjoyed this one. If you did, please hit the like button. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, please consider doing so. And boy, oh boy, I can't wait to see you in the next one. Thank you so much. This is a pleasure to be able to bring you these videos. Take care. Bye-bye.